Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast, coming to you live on a Saturday afternoon. Apologies in advance if there are any Wi-Fi or audio issues on my behalf. I'm clearly not in my usual setup at a hotel down here in Costa Mesa, so hopefully everything goes smoothly. But had a great time today at practice. It was a much hotter day today, but luckily we got to be on the other side, which had some shade, so it was good, but still hot nonetheless. Tyler's here joining me as always. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing today?
Great. As much as I love 3 hours of getting a tan or skin cancer, I really appreciated being in the shade today. That was awesome, hanging out with you, hanging out with Jake Hefner. Really great to be out there, and a pretty solid practice even with no pads.
Yeah, definitely. Big shout out to Jake Hefner for hanging out with us all day. Last time we got to hang out with Dan Wade, so cool to get to know some of the other podcasters that are doing a great job covering the team as well. So great stuff to dive into today. As teased earlier in the chat, after practice, Tyler and I did get to interview linebacker Eric Kendricks. So that'll be dropping on our usual show on Tuesday on the Chargers feeds. So be sure to set your alarms and check out that episode. That episode is going to have a recap of the scrimmage that is happening tomorrow night as well. So Tyler and I will be there in the stand, so feel free to come out and say hello if you want. You guys have been super nice and kind to us so far at camp, and tomorrow we'll get to be in the stand. So today is specifically about the 8th practice for the Chargers, and we'll have a lot of great recaps to dive into today.
Yeah, tomorrow is going to be awesome. Please check out the show for our recap, but tomorrow's going to be great. I've been waiting to see meaningful, kind of long-term, multiple sustained drives, first down, second down, third down. What do you do on fourth down? Bring out the kicker, bring out the punter. Just to finally get some real action is going to be awesome.
Bad timing for a drink right there. But yeah,
sorry.
It's okay. So we'll have a lot to dive in today. It was definitely a defensive heavy day in terms of who stood out. There will be some offensive things to talk about first, but unfortunately, I have to talk about some injury discussion today. Sebastian Joseph Day dealing with a quad injury, and per the team, he's going to miss some time. The Chargers are going to be cautious with this. They will not rush Sebastian out there until he is ready and healthy to be back from this. This is training camp. So no need to bring him back quicker than he feels comfortable. In his absence, Tyler, we can definitely talk about this, but Christopher Hinton was almost exclusively the first team nose tackle in his absence. Morgan Fox was playing a lot of snaps today. And then it was really kind of a rotation with Scott Matlock and Nick Williams were really the main ones that would rotate in there. So any panic or concern level while we wait for more information about Sebastian Joseph Day's injury that he's dealing with?
Panic, no, but I'm more worried about this than the Trey Pipkins one, which the Pipkins one, we never really got any indication, but I kind of figured because there wasn't much. Yes, it's odd when there's nothing really given to us, but I feel like he'd come back, and of course he did within, I think, 2 or 3 days of him being out, came back. Sebastian Joseph Day, for the team to already reach out and say that he's going to miss some time with a quad injury is not great. So yeah. I'm definitely worried about this one because we talked about the defensive line and the depth that they have, and we felt really good about this group, the 6 or maybe even 7 that they could have. And you work with Jay Rodgers, and you're feeling pretty good. But when you've taken the starter and then the other starter and then your backup nose, I guess, with Otito, and you've suddenly removed them from the lineup, and you're seeing out there is Morgan Fox, Christopher Hinton, and Nick Williams, you start to get a bit more worried. Not many positions on this team or any team can hold up with 3 injuries. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, Telesco should have drafted another nose tackle or something. No, they drafted a D tackle, right? So it's good that Matlock's out there. They signed Nick Williams early on to get ahead of Austin Johnson and Otito being already out. So that's good. But that 3-man front isn't the same as Morgan Fox, Sebastian Joseph Day, and Austin Johnson. So panic, no, but we'll see how long this will take because, again, for the team to say that he's going to be out for some time, I don't know what that means. And that to me is an unknown. That's more worrisome to me than just a couple of weeks. It's just some time. And sometime could mean maybe he's back tomorrow. I don't know. He won't be. But it could also mean into the regular season. And in week 2, you play the Titans.
Yeah, the opening schedule is very concerning for Sebastian if he's missing time, because he's been having a great camp by all accounts. Yesterday's padded practice, Daniel Popper outlined in his training camp update that he had what would have been a sack. He had a run stop. He had a tackle for loss. Like, he's been having a fantastic training camp, and with Austin Johnson out, he's your best run defender. And by a wide margin. So.
Mm-hmm.
The Chargers need him to get healthy ASAP because they don't really have that guy behind him to, kind of pick up the slack. And I think, I like Christopher Hinton more than most, and the Chargers seem to like him a lot, but, he's really never proven in an extended amount of time that he can be a high quality run stuffer. So this is concerning from a roster construction standpoint, because this is a unit that is going to give a lot of these meaningful reps to these young players like Scott Matlock, like Christopher Hinton, like Gerard Clark, CJ Okoye, who was just mentioned in the chat. He was playing a decent amount today, Terrence Lang. So there's not a ton of, veteran depth in this unit, which was a real strength of theirs last year. So it's definitely a concern in terms of Sebastian's injury. We'll see. Lando pointing out in the chat, a mild quad strain is probably, 1 to 3 weeks. But what if we don't know how severe this is? There's no timetable right now. So it's a concern for the depth, but, we were probably not going to see much of these guys in preseason games anyway. The preseason depth is who it is. And maybe if this drags out, maybe they go and sign somebody. But Sebastian Joseph Day being out, it certainly drastically changes the defense right now. I don't know if I'm frozen or if Tyler's frozen. Tyler, can you hear me? People in the chat want to let me know if I'm frozen or Tyler's frozen. Cool. All right, so Tyler's laptop just crashed. There we go. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, for those who missed it, who are just coming in here, Christopher Hinton was the one playing mostly in place of Sebastian Joseph Day. So we'll see what happens there. Other injury news in terms of practice reps. Rashawn Slater, Joey Bosa, Gerald Everett did not practice today. What's being reported as an illness. Jordan McFadden gets some extra reps today at left tackle in his absence. I thought he had some good moments. I thought he had some bad moments. I was curious about him, so I was able to ask Corey Linsley in the press conference afterwards about Jordan McFadden, and he spoke pretty glowingly about his work at guard. They feel comfortable with his ability to step in at tackle in a pinch. I think at tackle there's going to be some adjustments to some strength concerns. Khalil Mack got him good yesterday. I think Morgan Fox got him today on a bull rush as well. So it's going to be some hit or miss for him, but I think these are very valuable reps for him to be able to get these kind of reps with the first team offense at a position that he might have to play at some point down the road. So I thought he looked good in limited action. There were no pads today. Looks like we got Tyler coming back on. Maybe. There we go. What's up, man?
Whatever. I guess everybody's going on the injury report, and so is my computer. So
yeah. So like I was saying, Jordan McFadden was playing with the first team offense. Trey Pipkins, who Tyler mentioned earlier, he was back at practice, but there was a bit of a rotation between him and Foster Sorel today. So being cautious a little bit with Trey, I think, is the right decision right now. You don't want him to push through anything at this point. But he did play. I think I counted at least 2 series where he was playing. We saw him doing individual drills, stuff like that. So Trey looks fine. Foster Sorel, we'll see what happens there. But I think he's certainly improved. I'm not comfortable with putting a bar on where he's at in that improvement. But he's getting a lot of valuable reps right now, and the team seems pretty content with that.
Well, Steven, you got to ask one All-Pro Corey Linsley about Foster Sorel today. So what did Corey have to say there to you as you asked him a question?
Yeah, so I asked Corey about Foster Sorel and Jordan McFadden. With Foster Sorel, he made the comment that Foster's been more poised, more comfortable. That last year was kind of unexpected. Like, hey, by the way, like you're going to start, against the 49ers and Nick Bosa for your first start. So he feels like Foster is more comfortable this year and has improved. I made the comment to you, like, I think it's undeniable to see that just like from a timing perspective, he's improved. Like his kick jumps look smoother. They look more on time. His striking looks pretty good, but there's no pads. And also it's tough for me to get a real evaluation of where these two tackles will be because they're going up against Klimac and Joey Bosa in practices and they're losing reps. So, the preseason is super important for these guys. I am curious if they'll play McFadden at tackle in the preseason or if they'll kind of stick with him at guard. But either way, I'm excited to see both of them in the preseason.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was looking at, I think it was Bailey and then Hymas last year. Like, what did they play? And it was really, they just kind of flip-flopped them around, not at tackle by any means, but like switch left guard, right guard. So what they'll do with McFadden, we'll see. But it seems like their intention is to try left tackle first for that contingency. I think it was McFadden and then it was Andrew Trainer. So we'll see what they do with McFadden. But yeah, no, I do think Foster Sorel looks better. I don't recall what his, I know he was like a highly touted recruit coming out of high school and was supposed to be this great prospect, and it never really came to fruition. But it seems like for whatever reason or whatever they did, that Duke Manyweather took whatever that talent was that he was kind of supposed to develop into, but that he still has, and really is trying to make that show. So, we'll see. Like Steven said, we'll never really know. I think, Steven, the last time you were here, there was also no pads. So today there was also no pads. So there's really, it's very tough to evaluate as is. So tomorrow should be like a really good look at what these guys can do.
Yeah, and I think my biggest concern with Foster is just his ability to anchor and handle like the power of these rushers that he's going to go up against with every single week. So not really possible to tell how that's going until there's pads on. So tomorrow I'm really going to be focusing in on the offensive linemen and defensive linemen and see how that goes. With no pads, it's so easy to focus in on like the corners and the receivers and see how that's going. But pads on tomorrow, so I'm going to really be honing in on those trench players.
Yeah, and I can't wait to watch. And I don't know what you talked about while I was gone for a minute there, but I can't wait to watch
McFadden.
Okay, so yeah, McFadden, and also the guy that kind of had his way going up against him today, not as like a pure edge rusher by any means, but if Morgan Fox got an opportunity to even play at any point today against anybody, he was fantastic. So I can't wait to see how he holds up. Because if you look at any interview of any player that you've seen, from the Chargers, really since like the end of the season, I just went back. We weren't sure who we were going to have today for a guest. So I was watching Michael Davis on T.O. and Hatch's podcast. I can't remember what the podcast is called. And he talked about like, they asked him, what's the thing you guys need to work on to get to the Super Bowl? Michael Davis is like run defense. And you listen to like any presser, Joey Bosa's bulking up. They drafted too. Like everything's so much about run defense. So I'm really curious to see how Morgan Fox continues to develop in that regard because he finished so strong last year.
Yeah, if you listen to our interview with Kendricks or really any of the press conferences, there's so much of an emphasis on the communication between the run defense issues. And I think that's something that they are really harping on, pointing out is that the communication was an issue last year. And they feel like with Kendricks and Derwin and everybody else kind of taking a step forward, that the communication should be a lot better. Well, I don't want to spoil too much of our interview, but you asked, Kendricks about like, what's the communication been like with him and Kenneth Murray? And he was saying that there's just like a natural picking of each other's brains because he's trying to catch up on the defense that Kenneth has spent 2 years playing in. And Murray's, also trying to, pick his brain about just like the stuff that he's seen. And so, there's just a really extra emphasis on communication this year that I think is really going to pay dividends in the run defense.
And you can really see that every time I've gone to practice so far. I haven't seen, that not open to the public practices. So maybe I've missed it. But it just feels like the communication is so much better from the safeties on down, whether that's JT Woods, Raheem Lane, any of these guys that, roster bubble or not really developed guys yet, to Kenneth Murray having like a legit it's camp, but like he looks really good, particularly in run defense. You just heard the other day he had 3 run stops with Kendricks today. Like first series that they had, it was a tackle for loss, like shot the gap. Morgan Fox played the run excellent. So it was another just excellent. The defense just looks so much better against the run in terms of communication. There's no like, oh, whoops, I forgot to cover that guy. Oops, I didn't block that guy. I didn't, whatever. Like it's been much better to watch. And to be completely honest, I think the defense is like significantly improved in this regard against the run. And we'll see when you lose so many defensive tackles, maybe things will, change when you play the Dolphins, you play the Titans.
Yeah.
But it just looks different. I don't really know how to describe it, but like it's very difficult for this offense to get anything going on the ground. And I don't really think that's as much the scheme or the blocking. Granted, they don't have pads. So like, Rashawn is not out there, so they can't really do their thing.
Yeah.
But this defense, just the way they communicate from the D tackles to the safeties, the alignment looks so good. And I think that, whether that's Derek Ansley, whether that's Eric Kendricks, Alohi Gilman, obviously Joey just being back out there naturally, although not the last couple of days, they just look so much better against the run. How much better, I don't know, but we've been begging for this. The same kind of thing we did for special teams last year. Like, just get to 15, 16th in the league, get average. And I think this Chargers team could actually do that.
Yeah, 100%. So we'll talk again about some training camp takeaways. Last thing, J.C. Jackson did not practice today. There was something popped up yesterday, and he was reportedly seen entering the medical tent during practice. He is dealing with some soreness. He looked fine. He was at practice today. We saw him walking around. He had some good energy about him from what I could see. But there's some general soreness that is to be expected according to the team because of his injury, which is definitely not a surprise. He's already so far ahead of his recovery that him, taking it easy in practices when he's sore, I think is fine. It's natural. And luckily the Chargers have some really good cornerback depth that they can really put on display, which is more than they can say at some of these other positions.
And it's giving guys like Dean Leonard a great opportunity to go up against like Quentin Johnston or Mike Williams and get some legit meaningful reps for a guy that really didn't have much coming out of college. So that's been great to see. JC was up and down the sideline, hanging out with the team, kind of talking football back and forth. There was no like JC Jackson's in the medical tent and he's rehabbing for the next 2 hours. I didn't really see anything like that. Maybe he did during the stretching portion or something, but I mean, he's out there. And listen, as much as I want him out there, if we even find out that they want to just absolutely be sure and not even have him out there in week 1, which I don't think is going to happen. I'm just saying, like, I'd rather they be cautious. They've gone twice now, kind of rushing things back or playing him more snaps than maybe he should. And so I think that if like he's just sore, fine, let him sit for as long as he needs. Take it cautiously. The defense will be infinitely better if he's out there and healthy than if he's out there and hurt and can't bend, can't sit, can't move, can't throttle, deaccelerate, etc. So I'm totally fine if he's taking it easy.
Yeah, and like I said, the cornerback depth is really solid this year. Like Dean Leonard has had some really good moments. Jasir Taylor's had some really good moments. I was curious to see without JC, kind of what would the rotation be for the cornerback spot. And honestly, it was kind of business as usual in terms of Asante and Jasir rotating between outside and the slot, second team outside and slot as well. So they're going to continue to practice with those players as if they are still competing for that, star position. And I guess that's kind of a good transition because to me, man, Asante Samuel Jr. was the best player on the field today. And this was kind of something that we've seen coming. He's been having such good practices recently. We asked Eric Kendricks about him, and you'll definitely want to hear that answer. But there was at least 2 pass breakups that I counted. And then the big play, which really ratcheted up the defense because we were watching the 7-on-7, and you could tell like Derwin and Alohi were not pleased with how things were going from a secondary perspective in the 7-on-7 period. And whether that was they were flat, like you heard Derwin like yell at them, like, come on, DBs, let's effing go, like all this stuff, like all throughout the first 7-on-7 period. Like it was not smooth sailing for that unit. And then it was the second team drive with the first team defense. and Asante Samuel Jr. broke on a slant from, I want to say it was Keenan, and Keenan caught it, but then Asante ripped that ball out, and it landed right in Kenneth Murray's hands, who took it back for a touchdown. And then from that point on, it was defense every single series, every play, making it so difficult on this offense today. So it was a defense-heavy day, and it really started with that Asante Samuel Jr. I don't know if it was a fumble or counts as an interception or what, but he made a great break on the ball. He stripped it from Keenan's hands, and that really ignited the defense today.
Yeah, I love that you point out the narrative storyline of what happened there, because it was kind of bombs away for the first part, which is understandable given who Herbert has. JC's not out there. There's no pads. Like, they can just sling it, and no one's hitting Herbert. Well, unless you do it on accident, which we can get into another time. But you know, it was all bombs away. Then you really saw the leadership change with Derek Ansley, with Derwin James, like. And maybe that's part of the reason they switched to Derek Ansley, right? Like, defense needs to spark. Maybe Ronaldo Hill wasn't the most rah-rah guy. Ansley's out there, and he's pretty motivated, motivating, pretty fired up. And they just looked significantly more on it. And Asante Samuel Jr. really kicked that off for them. I don't want to say it's exactly like this, but against the Seahawks, he had that same kind of like pass breakup pop up for Kenneth Murray. Kenneth Murray ended up getting this same one today. So just all in all, like, Asante Samuel Jr., like you said, is, if he's not the best player out there, he's at minimum probably the best defender out there. Can't really tell as much with there's no pads. Like, you know, maybe it was Morgan Fox today, but yeah, he's just fantastic. And it's just every day, pass breakup, game changing play, pass breakup, interception, pick six. Like, I don't know how much run he'll get in the slot at this point moving forward. If JC is going to be sore and they'll take it easy for the next few weeks or maybe even a week, it's going to be kind of actually, you know what? I lied, because today Asante Samuel Jr. still got some run in the slot with some of the starters while Ja was outside, which was good to see. But yeah, he's been great. And, you know, we sat there on the Chargers episode a couple of weeks ago and went through how horrific the run game stats were for him. And that may still be the case, but we decided in the end that Asante Samuel Jr. to us would be the starter. And it just feels like, I don't know how you can look at what he's been doing over the last couple of weeks and say, no, we'll have somebody else out there.
Yeah, he's been so phenomenal to watch. And if he's not making a play on the ball, he's in excellent position. Like, even these catches that he's giving up, he's right there every single time. And it's just like the perfect ball from Herbert, or like a great catch from Palmer or Quentin Johnston. But he is having a fantastic camp, and this is just going to give the Chargers a ton of flexibility, because there was this great film breakdown from A to Z Sports, I think it was. I tweeted out the video last week, talking about the advantages that the Chargers were able to have from a numbers perspective because of Michael Davis, because Michael Davis is basically shuts down that field, that side of the field that he's on. And Asante is going to get a lot of targets that way. J.C. Jackson is going to get a lot of targets that way. And you have those two guys who can be ball hawks and be able to turn the ball over and get their hands on some footballs is just such an advantage. And Asante really has seemed like he's taken a pretty significant leap in terms of his coverage ability, in terms of just his awareness. Like, I think we've all known that he has the ability to, you know, read and react at a high level, but his ability, like in phase when he's in man coverage, has really become like a real advantage for him. And we'll see about the run defense. You know, I still think that that's something that's going to have to be addressed at some point. Right now, it's not an issue because everybody else is doing their jobs. But at some point, Asante is going to have to prove in the slot that he can really handle that kind of responsibility. And, you know, I think he's running away with the competition, but there are going to be some snaps that they're going to have to figure out how to, you know, have a bigger body in that role. And they'll do that with Derwin. They'll do it with just your tight with Ja. But Asante is far and away the most explosive corner in camp right now. I would still say Michael Davis is the best corner on the team. Yeah. But Asante is making a ton of plays in camp right now.
Yeah, he's crushing it. I'm really curious where this D tackle situation goes, because all things good and healthy, you know, Asante Samuel Jr., you can have him out there because you feel good about the D tackles, the edge rushers, the other safeties, linebackers. you start losing some guys that are supposed to be your run stoppers, like let's say all three of your best run stopping D tackles. Maybe that changes some of the calculus of how things go. But no, Asante Samuel Jr. has been fantastic. Like you said, running away with the competition, even though Jaw Taylor's been making plays. And I think today he blew up a screen. He's very involved, like almost kind of as a safety, like a box safety role. Not that he's playing that, but he's very good at working near the line of scrimmage. It's just ball in the air. There's no question Asante Samuel Jr. is better. And like you said, now he's reading it in man, in zone, like whatever you need him to do. He's kind of playing like as flawless as you can get. And anytime anyone catches a pass over him, it's rarely something that's a mistake by him. It's just the other guy's maybe really tall or caught a perfect one-hander in the corner and you just weren't stopping it no matter who you were.
Yeah. You know, Jaws has definitely taken some lumps, you know, and playing against Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and Joshua Palmer and Quentin Johnson, like that'll do that for him. You know, at the end of the day, he is, you know, he was a 6th-round draft pick. He didn't play a ton last year. So these are very important reps for him. And, you know, I think I've enjoyed seeing his mentality because it definitely is keyed in on what he does well, which is play the run, play the screens. And you can tell like there's a different kind of element of physicality with him. But Asante is having a fantastic practice and a fantastic camp so far. Another second, sorry, did you have anything else there?
Are you about to mention the person I'm about to mention?
Yeah, so it's been kind of quiet on the JT Woods front today, but he had a great day of practice from what we were able to tell. At least 2 pass breakups, both of which were quality plays. His first pass breakup, it's kind of on a corner route. I want to say it was Keelan Doss that he was covering. And I didn't think he was going to be able to get to this ball. And that range really flipped. Like his speed really showed up in there. And he made a great play on the football. He had another pass breakup in the end zone as a free safety coming over the top with Keelan. He was kind of in more matched coverage. And then he had a run stop. He had a run stop too, man. Like it was really funny. He like put both of his hands up. He's like, that was me. So, you know, JT had a good day, man. I think, you know, if he can continue to build on this is what the Chargers need from him, you know, because they're giving him all of the third safety reps right now. And it was nice to see him have a good day of practice.
Yeah. On the sideline, I don't think any of us could think of, honestly, another pass breakup from JT Woods. And that doesn't even mean that he's been playing poorly or that he did last camp. I never saw him maybe in position or never targeted in that regard. So today, to see him finally get targeted twice and have like beautiful pass breakups, like you just see the DB in him that is also very tall, very fast, a lot of length to him, I guess. I couldn't think of a better way to say that. So there it is. But he just played really, really well. And like he's been playing well against the run, against screens, but I was just begging for someone to throw the ball at him to see what he could do. And today, I mean, 2 targets, 2 passes broken up. Maybe you could have even had an interception on that first one. And like you said, the recovery was amazing. I think he was behind by a good yard or so. And then I think it was Derek Ansley just kind of yelling like, go get the football. And then just ran right in. And I couldn't believe that there was another gear that you could hit. So really impressive. Really, really great day for him. Does it mean that he's going to be this guy the whole season? I don't know. But we've been begging to see this from him. And so for him to ace the test today and get a run stop in the red zone today, really, really good stuff.
Yeah, there's a nice balance with him and Raheem Lane, I think, because Raheem Lane will come down into the box. He can do some of the, you know, more physical safety aspects of things, and JT can work over the deep center of the field. So, you know, we're seeing him grow, which is what we've been asking of him, you know, and he seems to have put in a good amount of work in that regard. The recognition is still really there. You know, he's been in the right positions, and now he's been able to make the plays. So he's a guy that I'm excited to see get into some preseason games, because once we get into those situations, like he's going to be the starter as opposed to Derwin and Alohi. So there's going to be a lot of more, you know, challenging reps, I think, for him. And I'm excited to see how he handles those moments.
Yeah, it's just it's tough because you don't have Ronaldo Hill there. So you really don't know how much of it was only Derek Ansley or whoever it is. But they've just done such a good job. Like watching Dean Leonard now versus where he was even like the Rams preseason game last year, where it was about like 3 penalties and maybe 1 declined. Like it was rough on the, get your head around and knock the football down department. And now kind of across the board, like JT Woods, we're seeing it. Alohi had a pick today. Zolant's great. Michael Davis you saw last year, has been better than ever. JC is just normally him, or we think he is going to be him. Raheem Lane, like this DB group, if for nothing else, they just seem much more dialed in with the fundamentals than I can really remember, to the point where like Mark Webb is a pretty good DB in terms of coverage. They're not even really asking him to be out there all that much because there's some other guys on this team that can do it just as well. And usually it's like Mark Webb's the best DB out there. Oh my gosh. And then he gets hurt. But like this year, they have so many different guys who are making plays in the football. It's really impressive.
Yeah, it is really impressive. This is a really solid group that's coming together. I think they complement each other well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you brought up the Alohi interception, because it's like every day I feel like Alohi is like around some kind of turnover, and he just has a knack for that, man. So I think there's a lot of confidence growing about Alohi's ability to, complement Derwin James and play alongside him, and I'm excited to see that growth as well. There were some other usual suspects that stood out. I thought Khalil Mack had himself a really nice day today. Morgan Fox did as well. We'll shift gears a little bit and talk about some of the offensive stuff, but John Hightower, man, like he continues to impress, and he's winning in a variety of ways against a variety of opponents. There was a rep in the red zone period with Easton Stick at quarterback, and he won on a slant. It was a nice physical route. He won on a go ball, dusted Dean Leonard. It was a beautiful pass from, I think it was Herbert, honestly. And today he's working at kick returner. And this is something that we haven't really seen up until this point. He did work as a kick returner in college. He averaged around 26 yards per kickoff attempt in college. So there's some layers here, man, and there's a lot of momentum building for John Hightower to carve out a really significant role for this team this year.
Yeah, as Frank perfectly points out right before I jump on, Hightower didn't play last year. We needed someone like him. Lombardi question mark.
Yeah.
Maybe would have seen something different in training camp, because then everyone gets to play, right? You're not just thinking of your best 5 and that's it. But man, watching Hightower out there, and I had not really been on the field and on the side where he was practicing, when you get to see him, run fast. And he does that.
He's fast. He's very fast.
He's really, really fast. I mean, because Dean Leonard, I'm pretty sure, runs he's a really fast.
He's like a 4.4 guy. He's a legit.
Yeah. And Hightower's like, see ya. So I know Hightower's 40 time isn't like a 4.3. It's like 4.4 something, but he's plenty fast. And what impresses me and continue to impress me is exactly what you said. He wins in a variety of ways against different corners, different spots of the field. And everyone's going to be like, oh, this is another Michael Bandy. But again, Hightower's winning 50 yards down the field and 5 yards right in front of you. He's winning when you're at the 20, and he's winning when you're at the 5-yard line needing to score in the red zone. And some of the catches, every time I've been down there in team drills or 7-on-7s or whatever, he's always had a really good catch, like a fingertip grab. Like maybe it could have, if he didn't catch some of these, like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Wasn't a perfectly on target pass, had to extend, had to jump or whatever. But every time he's catching it, like he's winning all over the field. He's their fastest guy right now, and he's catching everything. So and like you said, now he's playing kickoff return too, granted as a backup. But before that was Darius Shepard, who I have no idea where he went today, because he's been like pretty squarely right behind Hightower in the rotation. No idea where number 20 went today. But it seems like if he's now part of their kickoff return as like a contingency plan, then I mean, I think they're prepping for him to make this team. And if Guyton's healthy, keep 7 receivers. Don't keep a fullback. Don't keep another tight end or whatever. Like there's an opportunity here where you have, Guyton with all the chemistry he has, and then Hightower with the speed that we're seeing. And those two guys can run out there at any point you need. One will probably be inactive, but like I'm at the point where I don't see how you don't keep Hightower. We'll see in the preseason. You've been good about saying this. Let's watch preseason games. Let's watch real football. Because, like, to be fair, there's typically like a sack on Justin Herbert, but they throw it anyway, and then it goes to Hightower.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just been amazing. And I think previously, Alex has talked about Hightower's got maybe some drop issues. He remembers like some of the drops. I haven't seen an issue. Like I have not seen a single issue to the point where this is going to be rich. If you told me the Hightower was like with their first round pick this year, I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. He's doing great. Like he's just been, he's fast. He's kind of like been their Jalen Hyatt, like if they needed a Jalen Hyatt, except for the part where he wins all over the field. So again, amazing.
Yeah. It's so great to see. If they get meaningful football out of John Hightower this year, like I think we need to start having a conversation about Chris Beatty being like the best position coach on the team, like far and away with the work that he's done over the past couple of seasons. And so, John Hightower being able to come into this position, and honestly, he got more first team reps today than Quentin Johnson did. Quentin Johnson, okay. It was a small handful of first team reps today. It was not a lot. It wasn't a ton for John Hightower either. But he got more first team reps than Johnston did today. Johnston was heavily involved with the second team today and he had a really good day, some great catches. But Hightower is carving out a role that I think is going to be really difficult for them to keep him off the roster.
Yeah, I kind of wish we had interviewed a DB today, only because I did want to ask just about Hightower, about even Shepard or Johnston and Palmer. Like, at what point does it become effing exhausting when these guys are like launching 50-yard bombs down the field and they're coming up with them and like you're in perfect position and they're still catching them? It's been, I don't know, man. Yeah, the injuries and the uncertainty around certain players certainly loom over my head because it's like been there, done that. Not everything's gonna be perfect, but good golly, like Hightower on like this receiver room is like 7 deep, and like we talked about like 1 through 4. But no, this is like a 7 deep wide receiver room. Davis, not as much as a receiver, but he's got a completely different role.
Yeah. This receiver room could be really stacked, honestly, which is great to see.
Yeah.
All right, Tyler, anybody else that stood out for you today?
No, I think we got to most everybody. Without pads, it's really difficult to evaluate trench play, but tomorrow I think that'll be almost exclusively what I would want to key in on. Didn't see much from the tight ends today. I didn't even remember.
Yeah, there was one. Parham had a catch on like a deep out route, but that was, I think, about it.
Yeah, I can't think of much from there. No, that's mostly it. I think that we've covered all the good players, or at least the standouts from today. And then tomorrow, the scrimmage recap will be out soon. Are we actually I might as well just ask you live. Are we doing a quick recap after the game or the scrimmage?
Right now our plan is to record on Monday.
Yeah. I meant for like this channel, in case people are wondering, but
no.
Okay. Never mind.
Yeah, that's okay. Just going through my notes to make sure I'm not like missing anything. Like I mentioned, Quentin had a couple really, really good routes today. There was the deep go ball, which ended up being a contested catch situation.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a fantastic route by him. He had a great release off the line, nice hesitation to get some separation. And honestly, if that were Justin Herbert throwing the football, it would have been a touchdown. Like he dusted Dean Leonard, man. And then to make that catch, which happened, 5 yards in front of us, was super impressive. Not a super busy day from Joshua Palmer. Keenan was cooking everybody in the 7-on-7 period. We did not see a bunch of that in the team periods, but Keenan and his route running is just like, it's such a pleasure to watch in person because he's just, even against defense backs like Derwin and Asante Samuel and all these guys, like he just gets open. So that was a fun thing to watch today.
Did you get to Dustin Hopkins while you're doing the injury report?
No.
Not that there is one, but
yeah. So Cameron Dicker didn't kick today, I don't think. But he's been the only one to kick field goals basically since the second day in camp. And so the specialists kind of work on the field like behind us. It's kind of down a little bit, so you don't really see a whole lot of it when everything else is happening. But so Dustin Hopkins did not kick today. Apparently, there's a working off to the side situation that Ryan Ficken mentioned, and that Brandon Staley would provide an update. Hopkins has not kicked since the second day in camp, and Cameron Dicker is playing well. So we'll see what Staley says tomorrow, but I think at this point we should all just be planning for Cameron Dicker to be the Chargers kicker going forward.
Yeah, and that wouldn't have been a surprise even if both were healthy. But yeah, for Ficken to come out and say, "Yeah, Staley will give you an update on the whole situation," like that just kind of sounds. I could have easily been persuaded by Ficken saying, "We're just trying to get Cameron Dicker to have 100 kicks out there for us, so we can get some math out there. What's his percentage? What can he hit from different distances, etc." But for him to just kind of give the update, like, yeah, Staley will give you an update at some point. Well, I don't know what's going on with Hopkins. I'm not going to speculate like, oh, it's the same injury. I have no idea. But at this point, yeah, it's Cameron Dicker's job. He's basically won it. And if there's an injury involved at all, and I don't know that, it's kind of by default.
Yeah, and he's kicked well. I think I think the official tally, it was 30 for 34 according to Eric Smith so far in training camp, which is about 88%, which is a really good rate. That's a really above average kicker rate. So I think the Chargers are comfortable with him. Ryan Ficken definitely projected that today, that they are very comfortable with Cameron Dicker. I will say, like, from a team building perspective, if Cameron Dicker does win this job and it's trending in that direction, I would hope that they kind of offer him and maybe like at least a mini extension, because if he kicks extremely well this year, then he's a free agent next year, and then you're looking at an expensive kicker contract. So I would hope they could get ahead of the Cameron Dicker contract situation if he does actually end up winning this battle.
Gosh, what is the current kicker market? Do they make more than running backs?
A couple of them do, actually, I think.
Because listen, if he goes out there and hits 90% again, like 90-something% again, like that's one of the best kickers in the league.
Yeah, so Justin Tucker makes $6 a year, so he's great. Matt Gay, my guy, makes $5.6 million per year. Jason Myers, $5.2 million. Tyler Bass, $5.1 million. Chris Boswell, $5 million. Younghoe Koo, $4.8. That's a discount. So, I mean, if you're looking at these, I mean, Dustin Hopkins' contract is $3 million per year. So, like if you're a kicker who's above average, you're not. I mean, it's cheap in relative, comparisons to like a quarterback. But if he goes out and has another 92-93% season, you're looking at probably paying him like $5 million.
I wonder, would the 2024 cap hit be lower if they actually did the deal next year, because they'd make the year one cap hit low and then like that second year cap hit higher? Or would it be cheaper if they extend him, but the next year's cap hit is kind of high because that would be the second year of that deal? I don't know.
Well, I think you could probably, give him like a signing bonus this year and then push the base salary to year 2 of the extension, which would be after this upcoming season. So I don't know. Depends how they would want to structure it, but there's definitely a way where they can make next year cheaper in terms of cap space.
Yeah. I don't know. Cross the bridge when we get there, I guess. I don't even want to talk about that off season.
Yeah.
Yet.
So as the question here, can you extend after year 2? So he is a restricted free agent after this upcoming season, which means other teams could offer him contracts, and the Chargers would have the chances to match that. But like I said, if he goes out and kicks 92% again this year, then teams are going to offer him an expensive contract, and the Chargers could match it. But what if they couldn't, from a financial standpoint, justify paying $5.5 million or whatever to a kicker?
Yeah, I really don't want to do the kicker carousel thing again. So
right.
Yeah, so, I mean, whatever it takes. If he's your guy and Hopkins is gone, like I totally get why. Yeah, find a way to lock it down for several years, because I just don't want to do that again. If he goes next year, we have to have another kicking battle. I can't take it, man.
Yeah. So I would prefer to lock him up and at least for a short-term contract after this position battle.
Yeah.
All right, Tyler, any other final thoughts before we head out?
Nope, that's it, man.
All right, so appreciate everybody for tuning in today. Thanks to everybody who said hello. Like I said, we'll be at practice tomorrow. We'll be in the stands, Tyler and I. So be sure to keep an eye out, I guess. And then we'll have our recap of the scrimmage plus an interview with Eric Kendricks on Tuesday on the Chargers feed. So appreciate all of you guys for supporting the show. That's going to do it for us today. We'll see you next time. As always, bolt up.